for next Thursday's discussion at the end of the whatever I do with the chapters that we're on. Where, remember, I mentioned to you before, at the end of that hour, probably the last 30 minutes or so of that hour, we will be talking about the articles, what you're finding, and so forth. And at this point, I'm not sure we're going to share between groups, but maybe we will. We'll see how this goes. What I'm more concerned with is that you're focusing in on your particular project and getting articles that are going to help you with your particular project. To that end, for next Thursday, what I want you to do is come prepared not only with some more focused articles looking at that, your particular project assignment, but also come with either the beginning or you've actually worked it out, 3 to 5 key questions that you need to answer as you go through your situation analysis. Now, if you've had projects with me before, you understand that's a way to get us through the situation analysis. And I sent you an email to that regard, so you have a copy of, so it's a reminder to do that. But I just want to mention it again in class. So it's something that I'm thinking now that we need to start a little bit more, well, say sooner in the semester. So maybe this will be a way to do it. And then I'll go around with each group at the end of that class next Thursday and talk to you about what you're doing with your questions, to fine-tune those things to get going. The critical thing now is not just gathering the articles, but get your creativity going as to how am I going to solve the problems, or how am I going to answer this opportunity, especially as you said you went to the meeting and they're kind of like all over the place, right? And we want to talk, actually what I want to try to do is we go through the rest of this review, wherever I can, I want to try to bring the project back in, because it's a good way to ground you in terms of what's happening and apply it to a real world situation. So hopefully maybe it'll help you remember it a little bit more. Now the other thing that seems to still come up from time to time, and obviously since most of you are either marketing majors or you're doing this as a minor, let's make sure we understand what the marketing job or what the marketing jobs are. And based on what I've seen in the marketplace, my experience, people I've worked for, and then working with companies, how this might operate. In many cases, you have a senior management marketing representative, and this person could be Senior Vice President of Marketing, Marketing and Sales. They can also be the Chief Marketing Officer, that's another title, Chief Communications Officer. These are various titles that some of these senior people have that if you work for a company, I mean, there are a number of outside situations where you wouldn't necessarily have a title like that, but you'd be in marketing. But if you're working in a company, especially for profit, you'll have this senior position. And off of this, we have typically a sales group. Now, some companies I've worked with, the sales group was a different group, but it's still part of marketing. It's still under the marketing umbrella. They may not necessarily report to a marketing officer. Other companies I've worked with there were senior salespeople, senior marketing people. They reported into a VP of marketing and sales. So, I mean, it depends on the company. And understanding understand that the sales job, the intent there is you have a quota and you're trying to get out and actually sell the product. And some people forget that that's part of marketing, and that's an opportunity for you. So don't forget about that. As you're going through job offerings and so forth, especially starting out, in some cases, a sales position could be a very good way to start, get some great experience, move up into corporate in the company, or move across into a competitor, into the corporate. And I've worked with a number of people that have done that. Justin, if you continue with, is it Verizon? In a sales position, learn as much as you can for 2 years, unless you really like it. But, you know, it has its pluses and minuses, especially if it's straight commission, or if it's commission, or if it's salary plus bonus or whatever. I mean, sometimes you can do very well and be very happy with that. But then also think about moving up into corporate, wherever the corporate office is. And you can do some things that way. Another type of position would be brand manager. And as I write these out, also understand that manager, director, let's see, assistant VP, VP. These are all titles that could still be within this, oops, brand, not brand. What have I got in my mind? Brand manager that could also associate with that particular title, reporting up to a senior management person. We also have product managers with, again, these title breaks down below. We have Marcom managers. Marketing communications, Marcom managers. And here again, there may be a different group down here that just does PR, but a lot of times they're splinters off of this. PR, advertising, media, special events, could all be off of that group. These are all job opportunities. Things to think about when you're out there. And let's see, another group, research. Okay? So these are all opportunities in the marketing function. I mean, there may be some others. I'm just trying to think. Oh, yeah, there's another one, sales support. Sales support. So that may come off of this, or again, it may come off of a senior position. Depends on the size of the company, actually. Small business, if you're in charge of marketing and sales and small business, you do all of that. Last job I worked in, that's what in fact, I was also in charge of the warehouse. A lot of fun. Got to watch out for the guys on the forklift, especially if they got one in for you, right? Anyway, so just so we're clear. Any questions about that? Does it make sense to everybody? Just want to lay that out for you. Actually, some folks at the MBA level were asking because they didn't really have any marketing background, and they couldn't figure out how a sales versus a marketing and what the responsibilities were. And one of the fellows was having, did I mention this? One of the fellows was starting a new business. He was having problems trying to figure out who was going to do his sales. And I said, you are. He didn't particularly like that. He was really, because he didn't feel that was a strength. And I said, well, you can't hire somebody else to do it. Not at a small business level. So you have to be aware of that. Okay? All right. Now, thinking about these two chapters, 3 and 4, we're talking about, I'm going to call it this. Instead of consumer behavior, I'm going to call it buyer behavior. All right? Because that's really what we're talking about. And thinking about how people respond, whether they're a individual consumer or if they're a company buying something for their company or to be used in production of materials to then ultimately sell to the consumer. So when we think about, let's break it down this way, the consumer and the B2B. Maybe another way we can do B2C and B2B, business to business. Business to consumer, business to business, all right? And what we want to talk about is this person or persons that have the responsibility or have the as we can see up here when we start looking at this process, that are actually going to do something, buy something, right? And remember, this intersects that process model I gave you for what a marketer does. And at the point of getting your product out, now you're trying to get to the buyers. So when we think about who's in this group, we have, well, guys, give me some ideas. In the business to business group, what if the titles of some people making, in this process of buying something? What do you think some of the titles are? Candace, what do you think? Title.
From business to business?
General titles, not like vice president of something, but a general title. General responsibility, maybe that's a better way to put it.
I mean, would you have like a communicator within the, like from department to department?
You could have, what that person might be is an information gatherer or a coordinator, right? Okay. Abby, what else? What do you think? Type of thing that somebody would be doing.
Probably analyzing data.
Let's see, that would be the information gatherer for the most part. Anybody else? Think of something else. Abby, try to think of something else. You're not off the hook yet.
Financial stuff.
Okay, financial in terms of what? Decision maker. Okay? So that means somebody that's in charge of some sort of a budget, right? In line with that, there's also another called a purchase agent who actually buys, actually goes through the process, right? So purchase agent. We'll have a user or a user group. If you can't understand the abbreviations, just ask me. User group, or groups, depending on where this is going. And for the sake of discussion here, let's say we're looking at new laptops to buy. Okay? New laptops to buy. Either group, consumer group or business to business group. Information gatherer, decision maker, purchasing agent. Let's see. Other one we call gatekeeper, or let's see, another one is the with something like a laptop, you would have a tech analysis group. So it's usually the IT people. I mean, this just makes sense. The IT people, and strangely enough, sometimes the IT people report into the CFO, Chief Financial Officer. I guess because of the flow of information, money, and all the rest of it that's going on. But anyway, the gatekeeper in this regard would probably also be IT. They're the ones that that group is the one that has all the information relative to these kinds of products and should be able to help you make decisions as to what's the right way to go. Does that make sense? I mean, there are gatekeepers in all kinds of situations. Let's say you were trying to sell, let's see, a new cancer drug into medical practices. Well, you obviously want to go to the doctor because the doctor is making the decision to recommend and actually maybe bring the drug into the practice to be able to give samples away. But there's usually an office manager who is the gatekeeper to protect the doctor or doctors from the onslaught of all these people on the outside trying to sell them something, right? Because the doctor is supposedly in production trying to, handling patients and so forth. Gatekeeper, decision maker, purchasing agent, user group, information gatherer. Let's see, there's another one. Oh. With some of these products, some of these categories, there's usually somebody in the company that's what we call early adopter, a forerunner for what's going on, and is in many cases a go-to person as to what's happening, trends, what do we need to be aware of, things like that. There may be others. Now, this group would typically go into a, not always, but typically be in a buying group. So somebody, not just one person is responsible for this, but the group works to buy product. Okay? Now, Clifford, give me an example of, in a household, because this is really what we're doing, talking about a household purchasing something, consumer household, give me the title or give me the person of somebody performing the same function. Let's say, this is with a laptop now. So, given this, who's the decision maker?
In the household,
Yeah.
the husband and wives.
Could be husband and wife as a team. Could be the husband. If whoever's the most tech savvy, perhaps, might be the decision maker after everything comes together, right? Let's see. Who are the users? Vince, who are the users? Yeah, it could be the whole family, or it could just, depending on what you're buying, could just be the kids or the whole family, as you say. So there's the users. So sometimes you're going to see people wearing same hats. I mean, they could do the same thing in a buyer group. Who's the gatekeeper? Alexander, who do you think the gatekeeper is?
I would assume that wouldn't it be a service that they offer?
No, I'm talking about household. Who in that household?
Tech savvy?
Whoever's tech savvy. Brittany?
I just had a question on that. Like the gatekeeper, when you use a laptop example, you use like the gatekeepers with the IT people. So it's kind of like who knew the most about it. But then when you use the doctor example and the office manager, it was almost like the office manager just like weeded through people to get to the doctor.
Yeah,
I
well,
don't really understand what the gatekeeper
But the office manager in that application, the medical application, has some general understanding of categories of things and what might be important, not be important. And in some cases, what I've seen with the gatekeepers in those situations, they ask, like the drug rep, to give them information to bring them up to speed so that they understand what's going on, and then they bring it to the doctor.
So you get like through the gatekeeper.
You got to get through the gatekeeper to get to the doctor. Right. You got to get through the gatekeeper a lot of times when you're in a company trying to get in to sell your, say, the laptops. Now, sometimes you get around the gatekeeper by using communications, PR, other kinds of things. You send materials to the decision makers and stuff comes down. So there's all different ways you can get through that process. So it's not just the gatekeeper, okay, you're stopped, you can't get through. I did that once I was selling, it was a new prophylactic drug for UTIs. It was cranberry based. And the buyer refused to talk to me. Absolutely will not talk to me, does not want it, not interested. I sent a sample to his boss. Within 2 weeks, the buyer called me and I got the order. You gotta be, you gotta be creative about the stuff. So, in many cases, when you go out and get a job, you may be called into sales situations where you're actually gonna go out and help on a presentation, selling your product. It's great, that's the way I did it. Because most of the reps that I had 75 reps, they got 5% commission whenever we made a sale. But they couldn't sell it. They weren't equipped to sell it because they were like commodity movers. So I went in on all those pitches and I was the one that made the sale and they got 5%. I got my salary, of course. I got to keep my job for a while. All right, so a gatekeeper, sometimes not only the one that's most savvy, but whoever's got the purse string. And it might be in most family that mom is watching the budget, especially when it comes to new toys, that dad might just, oh, I can't do without that new 48-inch screen TV and the new latest laptop, the new latest 5G iPhone and the iPad 3. I gotta have it, right? Probably one of the biggest things when you guys get married that you're going to have to deal with is how to deal with money as a family. You got to figure out what to do. And sometimes, especially if there are two working adults, I mean, the husband and wife are both working, so one of the things you might want to think about is there is an our account, and then there's her account and his account with the disposable income that you have. I mean, it's just something to think about because it causes a lot of tensions in some families. It causes tensions in a company, too. Purchasing agent, in this case, might be dad, because he's going to actually go and get it. The decision maker was, what did I say? I was looking for a decision to make, so that was the team. Information gatherer, again, might be Dad, because in that case, he was watching, looking at stuff. So again, we could go back, I could do it with a box of cereal. Let's say Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Is what you guys, well, another way to look at this too is, you know, you guys go home on holiday or whatever, and Mom asks you, what is it that you want, you know, for lunch, dinner, whatever. But she also knows your favorite stuff. So she might have a box of your favorite cereal or whatever. So in that case, she's the information gatherer, the purchasing agent, the decision maker, but you're the user. Of course, you have input as a user, you know? I mean, like in the old days when you were little and she bought these good, healthy sticks and leaves, cookies that tasted like dirt, and she said, this is good for you, and it's got low in sugar, low in salt, low in fat, and you refuse to eat them, right? I mean, she's not going to push it in your mouth, but you know, this is the treat we have in the house this week. Wouldn't get eaten, she'd have to throw it away. That probably happened a couple times with you guys, right? So Mom learned, well, let's see, how can I cheat? Let's see if I can get something that's maybe a little bit more tasty, but you know, still not so bad for you. Anyway, all right. So everybody got that set? Understand how things work? Now, what else is different between home buying versus business-to-business buying, do you think? Ask yourself this, how does this process start? Either side. Look up there, right? What's the first box? All right, so we have need. Now, what happens when that need is recognized and addressed? Let's say on the business side. What's usually their first step, like out of a buying committee? Because they're constantly looking at being up to speed with technology and the rest of it in companies. They don't want to fall behind, especially with being able to move. Because remember, we're not in a manufacturing era anymore. We're in a knowledge-based era here in the United States, which I hope changes back to a blend of knowledge and manufacturing. Why can't we have knowledge and it also pays off in manufacturing? It might in the higher end new, let's see, not jobs, but new industries such as wind technology, anything to do with energy conservation. And I'm talking about like wind technology, wind use, and like down in South Carolina in the North Charleston area, they have a huge, I think it's through Clemson, a huge wind turbine production plant down there where they're producing these huge blades and the materials that would actually power these turbines. I mean, there's some great opportunity there. When you're, again, looking for opportunities for jobs, healthcare would be one. So if you could work in the marketing department or the marketing communications department or any of these new industries looking at it. All right, so what starts this? There's a need. All right. So what comes out of the need? What's the next step? Comes out of the need. What's going to happen with well, let's do the business. What comes out next step with business, usually? Call, What? Go ahead. They're going to research it? Well, they will research it, yes. And when they research it as a result of this need, and let's use the laptop as the need, what would typically, do you think, if you were a business, just common sense, what would be the thing that you would want to pull together before you go out and talk to people?
Research.
Well, we talked about research, but what are you going to pull together? Budget will be part of it. Can't do the budget until you figure out what it is you want. Right? So to figure out what it is you want, they typically put together a spec or specification. So if we say laptop, then it's going to be very specific as to what that laptop should have to meet the needs of the user groups and everybody else that's in your team, and then they can build this spec into, all right, and it's going to be this spec times how many, right? Because one of the things that differentiate the business-to-business group from the consuming group is they're going to buy in large quantities. They're usually going to spend large amounts of money, a lot more than a onesie or a twosie, right? So if you're selling to the consumer side, you're certainly looking to get volume, but it's going to be volume from individual consumers. So you got to really do a lot of advertising to move that. Whereas on the business-to-business side, it's more focused. I'll do advertising, but I'll only spend between 0.5% to 1% of my marketing budget to reach people. 0.5% to 1%. And in doing that, I then send in salespeople. As opposed to the consumer side, I'm going to be spending anywhere from 10 to 20% of my budget in terms of advertising and promotion and the rest of it to reach consumers so I can get them to come in. So a little bit different. So big quantities, big dollars, and not purchase that often. Usually they might go in cycles, 6, 12-month cycles, things such as that. All right? Let's see what else we want to say about these guys. Okay. So if we talk about a spec, a laptop spec, do you think there might also be a spec that's done on the the what? Did I do something? Do I have something on my face?
There's a mouse over here.
There's like a squeaky noise.
You hear it?
Well,
Oh, yeah.
if it's up there.
Sounds like it's down
I
here.
don't know.
I know, well, it's the echo. Ladies, you know, they're cute, they're not going to hurt. None of you are wearing skirts, so you don't have to worry about that. So you're going to be fine. And if it's not fine, Austin's going to come over and step on it. No way. No, it's up there and it echoes down around. I've got one in my office too. It's the fans that are in. No, not a mouse, a fan. Are you guys uncomfortable with mice?
Yes.
Okay. It's amazing, you know, a mouse can scare an elephant, right? A little thing like that, I mean, come on. Of course, I wouldn't win that argument with my wife. She'd probably kill me, just I'm talking about it. All right, so where were we talking about? Oh, all right. So in a household, would you have a spec? I mean, we say, oh, we got to put the spec out. And usually the term in business would be RFQ, request for quote, RFP, request for pricing. Is usually what you'll see, especially when they're doing bids and so forth. Government work, you know, local, state, whatever, federal, or just companies in general. They'll put out something, we'll put out a bid, request for bid. So on the consumer side, do they have a spec? Alexander says no. How many think no? There's no spec. There is kind of a spec because you sit down and you say, I want the laptop, it's got to have this stuff. I mean, you all go through this. You know, it's got to have a certain RAM, it's got to have a certain memory size. I mean, basic stuff, right? So you do go through that. All right. So if we would say one side has a formal iteration of a specification, the other side is maybe real informal, might be in your head, might be written down, might have gone to some source to get comparisons to decide, gee, should it be a Lenovo, should it be I don't know, what's HP, and there's another one I forget, begins with A, that is Acer. It's very high volume. Actually, a lot of companies, in terms of laptops, and well, maybe not laptops, but in terms of PCs, they want to get out of that business because there's very low margin. They can't make a lot of money with it, which is sad because here we go again. It's going to go overseas or somewhere, and we're going to lose control of it. But anyway, from the spec, is there anything else that we need to add on either side when we put together a spec? Would we expect certain things in that specification based on the laptop, the way I just listed out certain requirements? What else would you guys be looking for if you were in a company? Yeah, Justin.
Like a service or
Service and warranty. Now, with laptops, there probably is no training, but they might also be looking for that as well in the contract, in the service contract. But service might be, you know, you get the first 12 months free, month 18 is a slight charge, or whatever it might be. And then, what did you say, service and?
warranty.
Warranty, guarantee, warranty, what they're going to do. So you'd see all of those kinds of things. And you'd expect those on both sides. Now, as a homeowner, do you expect that you have to take out insurance on the new laptop that you bought?
Isn't that part of your homeowners?
No, the laptop in terms of whether it's going to work or not. a service, should you get a service contract or service insurance? What do you all feel? Something you bought brand new, you know, they all try to sell you that 2 to 4 year contract or whatever it is, right? Because they don't provide any service.
That's on
As
the
a-
price.
It's not on the price.
I feel like you're more likely as a business to buy that.
As a business, excuse me, you'd probably negotiate that as part of your price. Look, if I'm going to come in and I'm going to give you, for example, most companies, they might be coming in, they're going to buy 300 or 400 of these for all their people. Well, especially people on the road, the rest of it. You don't think they're not going to negotiate, because that's part of the buying group's deal. They put out the spec. Okay, here it is, here's the price. You think they're going to buy it that way? No way. You want my business, you're going to have to give me a deal. So you would probably put that into it. I mean, just as a guarantee and a backup. But as a homeowner, do you want to pay for that insurance? Should you pay? How many of you would buy that insurance? I wouldn't either. I mean, it's brand new. 2 years? I mean, come on, guys. Shouldn't break down. Except when I had the Dell, I broke down 6 months, 8 months, 12 months. What did I say? Buy a Dell and go to hell? It was true. It was hell. 20 hours on the phone trying to get the system fixed. And then they finally sent me a new system. Anyway. Okay, what else would you be looking for in that deal? So we said service, warranty, maybe training. Justin, what else?
Like software. I bought one over Christmas and it came with like 8 different software programs.
Absolutely. You might not think to put that in your spec. I would think the companies probably would put it in the spec because they want the latest operating system, the latest, say, Office package, whatever it might be, that stuff. But if not, yeah, you'd definitely be looking for that. What else?
You're gonna look at reviews.
Well, you're going to probably do that on your own. You're going to go out and you're going to see what's being said. If the people are good salespeople, both on the consumer side and the business side, they're going to include that for you. But this is in terms of part of your negotiation. What do you want to try to bring into this? So we said service, a warranty.
But security,
Security, yep.
service,
Yeah, could be. Security on the system. I mean, there's some barricades, so you know, they're firewalls so that it can't hack in. You might negotiate that as well.
some of the thumbprints.
Some of the what?
Thumbprints.
Whatever that means.
I mean,
The one
to log into.
Oh, you mean a thumbprint login? I don't know, it depends on cost. Because now we're starting to push the upper ends of what the margins available on these units are from the companies. Because they can only go so far, even with volume sales, right? So there may be other things too, like faster delivery. Consumers probably wouldn't have that. They're looking for it to be right there. But as a company, you may be looking direct ship, for example. You may be looking for setup. Candace, are you just...
Not
you-
that I've ever thought about it, and I was like, no, never mind.
Oh, it's not a good idea?
Well, I don't know.
Well, go ahead and just throw it out there.
Well, I know you don't like Dell, but sometimes Dell, they have it where like you can customize it where you
Yes,
have the-
absolutely, terrific. Terrific idea. Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. A lot of these laptops, that's part of the deal, is that you can personally customize it to what your needs are. So as you go through the spec, that might come out, but that might be also a negotiating point for the businesses. Yeah, good. I mean, just because I don't like something, just don't bring it up. I mean, that's a big selling point. In fact, that's what Dell built their business on. You can self-design and pick from column A and column B and put it together, and we're going to ship it to you. And there you got it. They did do that pretty well.
If you're buying 3 or 400, you're probably not gonna get all the same.
What's that?
If you're buying 3 or 400 for a company, you're probably not gonna get all the same as,
Needs?
no, well, I would mean like the same laptop, right?
Yeah.
They're all gonna be used for different,
Well, you want something that's consistent, that can be serviced easily, and it's going to keep your costs down. If you go into a number of different variations, I mean, like, let's say you're AT&T. A friend of mine, he was buying 5 or 10,000 of them because of where they were going. And then all that other stuff was going to go for scrap because it was like 6 years out or 5 years out. So yeah, I mean, you may want, you have a, when you do the spec, you may have a standard that you're going to also build to as well. So this is across the spectrum. I mean, not just laptops, anything a company is buying you can apply this to. Anything that a consumer's buying. So as we say, they've got specs and these other things, consumers would be negotiating similar things, but on a per unit basis, and you don't always get the best deal. It's nice if they give you a warranty and a guarantee. That would be great.
No.
Okay, you were just thinking. All right. This time we'll let that go. All right. So we talked about need and how the thing starts. So what I want you to do now, let's try to bring this project in here. Let me first ask you all, what's the product we're selling with this project? What's that?
Buy local, think local.
I can't hear you.
Buy local, think local.
Okay. Abby?
Is it the education?
That's let's say an application of it.
I don't really understand this.
You understand what?
I don't really understand this project. Like, what are they?
Yeah,
All
well,
you said
that's
was-
why I'm asking this question.
All you said was they want to let people know about.
Right. Well, when we define a product typically, a very base definition, product is made up of what, one or three things? Or how would we define it?
Service.
Nope, those are positions. It's a good, well, you did say service. A good, a service, or what else? An idea, or any combination thereof, right? What's this what's our product with this project?
Idea.
It's an idea. We're selling an idea. We're selling Carolina homegrown and what they represent. That's what we're selling. That's step one, right? Okay. Understanding that, we need to develop a mission. Well, I got to see what has anybody looked at the website yet? Should look at the website and see if they've got a mission statement there. And not next week, but 2 weeks from now, we need to put a mission statement together for the entire group for Carolina Homegrown. And you guys, you said they were all over the place talking, they have all these diverse groups. They're trying to come together as to what each one wants and what makes sense. Well, remember, he outlined three different directions. So all of these people have a dog in the fight, I believe, in terms of what it is that they want to have happen in these 5-county area, or let's say Union County anyway, in terms of, what do we say? Is it think local, buy local? Is that what he said? I'm trying to remember. I have to go look. Is that right? Was that what it was? Let me see. Local foods, local markets. And an expression of that is to think local, buy local. Okay. So we're selling an idea, right? And this group represents that idea. A nonprofit, it's a collaboration, or a consortium, or whatever you want to call it. He doesn't want to be called those things, but that's in fact what they are, of people with various needs and interests and whatever, and motivations that decided to come together. This is a smart thing to do in this area. So in thinking about that, they saw 3 major areas to go. One is in terms of doing something with a farmer's market and having a number of different type of farmers coming in and providing produce to that market, produce and other agricultural products to that market as a way to satisfy local needs. And he keeps talking about it's the 21st century farmers market. So that's one group. Then another group are the the community growers that maybe are growing as a group to sell, but he didn't say that, right? He says that's a very small portion. And then there was another group where he said, basically this is where it's coming from, community growers coming together and providing stuff for the poor or the needy, right? That seemed to be like a prime focus of the community growers, correct? Right? And then there was the third group, third group being grow your own, right? And what can be done. So all of these folks doing something to grow. Now, good echoes. Where's the consumer in all of this? Is the consumer in the Carolina homegrown? Careful.
In the community gardens, that would be.
Not directly. Directly, where is the consumer directly? Grow your own. Grow your own is a consumer group. Because it's probably highly unlikely that they're going to have enough where they're going to go out and do a roadside stand. And they talk about Union County having some sort of a food council to guide stuff like that. Because back in the 30s and 40s, when my parents used to do it, we had 2 or 3 acres out behind the house that we would, if we had stuff left over, we'd go out, because we were on the main highway, we'd sell it out on the main highway. But today you have to worry about what? Food safety. You talked about that. And so are these local grow your own home growers going to spend the $800 and go through the GAPS training to be able to provide the stuff if it's on the side of the road? Didn't have an answer to that. And Warren, your group needs to find out from Jeff Reeves if they're covered by that as well, if that's a problem.
People still do that all the time.
They do, but they may be, because of what's going on with the federal government and the fear of foodborne bacteria and other kinds of things, they may stop that.
They talked a lot in the meeting about a few that they're paying, but they talked about how they dig and take samples of the soil first before they plant,
Before they what?
before they start.
Yeah, and then the local, if they have a local food regulatory group, then they would accept the food samples. But then there's also the process of stuff being contaminated in the process. Like a worker comes in. When my brother was growing up, he worked for a local restaurant. It was like the biggest restaurant in town, and one of his workers came in with a viral infection and spread it to some of the guests, and one of the women died. So there's more and more of a concern about that now. Warren, you had a question?
What did you want me to ask you?
Is there going to be a local regulation where home growers are going to have to pay the $800 and go through GAPS training if they have excess produce they want to sell? Only if they have produce they want to sell. If they're going to give it away, like family to family, friends to friends, it's unlikely that's going to be a problem. But if they sell it, then there may be a problem. If they donate it to big groups, that could be a problem. One of the big things, and I think it's still in effect here, like you guys go through the cafeteria and you have your selection of stuff, and there's a lot of stuff you don't want to touch no matter what. And at the end of the night, where does that go? Years ago, it used to go to the needy. In the last 5 or 10 years, they have to dump it because of possible legal ramifications and risk. As best I know, that's the last I heard, which to me is an awful shame that they can't give that stuff away. But anyway, all right, so let's identify these groups. So we said we've got farmers with, I think he said between a half plus up to probably 25 acres that would be interested in doing this. And as part of this group, you've got a very small group right now of commodity farmers that might test a section, but you know that there's a problem with money that they get for government, subsidies that they get, and they maybe messes things up on us. So the commodity farmer may not be part of this, even though we had talked about that. So we're talking about farmers, whatever they are, part-time, full-time, whatever, that have property, and they're looking to grow produce and other agricultural products. I mentioned grass-fed beef. We're not talking about row crop farmers. Those are the commodity folks. They don't have to worry about a lot of these regulations. So that's a group that this idea is trying to reach, right? The other group is the community growers. And then the third group is home. Okay? All right. Now, let's see. Vince, what group are you with? Those guys there? All right. You four all work together on this. You three, you four. Let's just do it this way. If you're a home grower, and I'm a marketer now, trying to push my idea, what is it that I need to understand about what your needs might be? What's going to get you to start thinking about? Now remember, how do we define purchase decision in this case? So, because with this example, we have a mix of business to business, in a sense, because we have the collaborative going to growers to do something, and we also have the collaborative going to homeowners, in a sense, however they reach them. Not necessarily face-to-face, but maybe, right? So for the homeowner, as a seller of this idea, what do we expect them to do? What's the purchase? Brittany, what's the purchase? What do you think? And purchase, you know, it's not a trick question, but it's a little dicey. So what would you say? What's the purchase for the homeowner? Thinking about this idea, what do they want them to? What does the Carolina Homegrown?
Plant their own food, so like.
That's it. Absolutely. So the end result, the purchase for them is to build a garden, and in building a garden, purchasing seeds and all the materials and stuff. So that's side business for local companies, right? So that's the end result. First thing I want you to do is, as groups here, the three groups, what's the need recognition that they're going to go through? What's going to happen? Just try to just talk that out in a minute or so. Just the home. Just the home. There are going to be two major drivers to need. Two major drivers. Anybody know one of them? What's a basic thing that's going to go on? I mean, just common sense.
Cost,
Not yet.
savings,
What?
savings,
Maybe, but not yet. I don't think so. Well, I got to be careful of that. Maybe, but you know, there's sweat equity that's going to go into it. So sometimes that's not a saving, especially if you're working. Value, maybe. Let's try to be a little bit more specific. What do you think the home owner is thinking about in terms of what's happening with meals and how they get access to stuff and the value of produce and stuff? Let's just stick with produce. What do you think they're doing? What's going through everybody's head? What would go through your head?
how do you do that? How do you figure out?
Well, maybe before you get to that, you're not at that point. Wouldn't it be, gee, wouldn't it be nice if I could get fresher, locally grown produce? Because I know, don't most people know this? I know it's going to be better for me. It's local. Most of the vitamins and minerals are still there because they haven't gone through the grocery store and all that process. So it's like it's coming right from the farmer to me. Or in this case, gee, is there a way that I might be able to do this? So either I'm going to go to the farmer's market, but that's not, you know, they could do that. So there's a portion they're going to do that. But there's going to be a portion, and this is the second concept or the second imperative, there's going to be a portion that say, whether they come to the realization they want to grow produce, or they come to the realization first that I got a lot of land out here if I don't do something with that land, gee, I'm in farm country, maybe I'm going to lose that land, or I'm getting taxed, or whatever it might be. So you got like a couple of things going on. Use your backyard to do things for you and your family that you hadn't thought of before, or let's get some fresher food on the table that you can actually control yourself. You can go out in the backyard and pick. Now, have any of you, as you were growing up, your parents, grandparents, whatever, or friends, family, had you gone out in the backyard and actually picked something for your table? And primarily, probably tomatoes, right? Anything other than tomatoes? Squash, stuff like that, yeah, right. And then you get some of the specialty. Now, specialty could also be another aspect of this. Certain segment of this group, while they may not be concerned, they might not want to do that, but they might do something else in the area of herbs. Or as Martha says, right, and this is a good thing, I guess, herbs. I thought she said that. Didn't she say herbs instead of herbs?
I always said herbs.
Well, I say herbs too, but I thought she started saying herbs. Anyway, herbs, all right? Various herbs that, like, I don't know, rosemary, thyme, there's another one, sage, yeah, a bunch of stuff that you can grow. Okay, so there's a need, right? Now the question is, given that need, what are they going to do? Thinking about this simple buyer decision process. They're going to have to get information, right? So that's the search. That's where Carolina Homegrown can come in and help them by providing information where?
From other farmers, from other like farmers and their experience.
Possibly, but we're talking about Carolina Homegrown.
Didn't they talk about having a facility for education?
Possibly, but the prime thing to begin, the window to all of this would be their website. And Facebook, and YouTube, and Twitter, for the ones that will use it. We also have to understand there are certain groups that don't want to use that stuff. But at least that's like step one. So whatever you're doing has to be compatible into the website. Step two, you got to find out where are they going to provide this. Do they provide it at the extension service facility over here? You guys have seen that, right? The big place up on the hill. It's on the left-hand side as you go out of Wingate. That's the where the Union County. What's that?
Civic Center.
Yeah, the service center right up there. They might provide it up there. So we got to find out. So somebody send them an email. Abby, send Jeff an email and say confirm if they're going to have a facility somewhere for people to get information.
They talked about the meeting, there's like 3 of them they're gonna do.
Oh, where? What?
They have a lot of things going on at the Agriculture Center, like Taste of Union, they're going to have Farm City Week.
All right, so is the service center, the Ag Service Center, is that going to be the place where all this stuff is going to be?
And you have to get a ticket, and the tickets are $25.
Okay, that's the next thing that should be on the website, number one, but you also have to think of how are we going to get that information out through traditional means? And you got to find out. So you need to, if you've got did you get a contact or anything with people who are talking about this? Go back to Jeff Reeves, ask him a question. How is he getting information out other than the website to people, like in the county? Is he using the newspaper? Does he have a facility to get it out? It's a key question to ask, all right? Okay. So you have a sense, then we would go through, now what are they going to do in terms of how they're going to do this? So they need help there. See, a lot of this is going to be information to sell this idea. There's another aspect then of the home growing that's going to help make this purchase. What do I do after I pick it? So Warren, when you're doing this project, there is a third thing. First thing is convince them to do it. Second thing is, what am I going to do with it? Right? So in that regard, most, and even people that have grown up in farms, you guys, when you went to the neighbors and you picked it, I mean, if it was tomato, it was pretty easy to decide, wash it real well, cut it up and put it in a salad. All done, right? But there are a lot of other things that need to be done with some of the stuff that they could grow, and hence they need some sort of a use plan. How do I cook it? How do I prepare it? How do I do it ahead? And there are some simple recipes and other kinds of things that need to be provided. And then the third thing with the homegrown, part of this purchase decision is how do I preserve what I pick? Because I'm going to have a lot of this stuff. One of the things my mother used to do is she would pickle for the winter. She would preserve stuff for the winter. I remember go down in the basement. We had a wall, bigger, well, probably this distance in the cellar, all preserves. A lot of work. But there are new techniques now. We got to share the new techniques. So that all goes into information to help them make the purchase what? Of growing in their home. Buying the idea. That's what we're about. We're trying to get them to buy the idea, right? And rightly so, because it's a good idea. Okay? Yes? So you understand that. All right, now, let's do the top one. What's the need for these businesses? Because that's what this is. This is a business. What's the need? What's going to get them going? Talk about that for a second.
What are we, I know business is business, but what are we asking?
I'm sorry?
What are we asking?
What's going to get these folks to say, I have a need to do something?
The people that aren't using the land that they have. Is that what
Yeah,
you're
they're growers, farmers, growers that could produce stuff to sell. So what's going to get them to start thinking about this? Not the ones that are currently doing it. They're all set. We're talking about new growers. Right, guys? We're talking about new growers. We don't have to convince people that are already doing this. We're talking about new growers to get into this Carolina homegrown idea, right? Anybody have an idea? What do you think? Justin, what do you think? What's going to get these people going? These are new growers, not necessarily commodity farmers. They have acreage.
They already have the money.
They have the land, and they say to themselves, what?
I could use some money.
I could get the plow out there, right?
Water.
What? Why?
Water.
Water. Water? No, we're talking about new farmers that have the land. The need that's going to get them to start thinking about buying the concept, not the water, because that's execution. What's going to get them to buy the concept? I could make money off of this. I could make money off of this.
They want taxes on the land.
I could do a number of things with that money that I'm not doing right now. I'm paying taxes on the land. I'm not, I would assume that's what's going to get them going. Yeah, Justin.
Maybe most of them, if I don't sell all this produce, and then I can keep it for myself and keep it for my own family. To actually kind of
For the smaller ones, yes. I mean, literally, when my parents got to about 2 to 3 acres under production, my father did this all with a hand plow. He didn't have an animal or anything. He just did it with a hand plow. It wasn't motorized either. I don't know how he did it. After about a half acre, we had tons of stuff. It was just too much. It was almost overpowering, right? So we started selling it. It made sense to do that. Anything else in terms of need? We think money is going to drive. Secondary thing, maybe, hey, I could do some good to the community. Third, maybe I could also do some donation and get a write-off for the donation, right? So there's a bunch of things that we should be saying to the farmer, but here again, getting information where? At the website or these other places they can go. The thing is, how do we get to them to have them look at the website? That's a critical challenge.
Like initially, how are they planning on getting in touch with these people who have land, just going online?
That aren't growing?
Plots? Yeah.
Mr. Reeves has a list of people with available land. So you would suggest based on identifying plots of land to make mailings, to reach out to those people through various facilities. So the initiative, the collaborative, has to come up with some funding to be able to do that. The website may not be enough. It might help. Hopefully word of mouth would work too. So maybe the cheap way to do it, if you can't get them to the website normally, what else could we do in Union County and the surrounding counties to get to people?
Maybe like if they have like a town meeting or something like that.
Could do it that way. There's a bigger way. There's over 100 to 200, I think, outlets in the 5-county area to do this. Churches. It's a great initiative because the churches can also get something out of it as well. So you have to, as part of this plan, figure out how you would get that word out and make it happen. Okay, so that was need. And then we go through the process. You know, they're going to look at, well, what do I need to do? What do I have to bring to the land? What are the crops? So I need information. What are the regulations? I need information. Alternative evaluation, I'm focusing in on what to do. And then finally they buy the concept and they start doing it. But remember, the way they're going to buy this concept, the way this is going to work, especially for the new farmers, is what? How do we pull this off? They're not going to go out to the road and sell what they have. What are they going? What's the expectation? Where are they going to go to sell it? The new farmers market. So for this to work, for this group, we've got to figure out how that farmers market is going to be ready for those people to come there. So that's part of, I mean, you're not doing it, obviously. We don't have the resources. But this is part of the presentation. This is part of your recommendation, is how that's going to be presented. Should be on the website. Gee, it's already ready-made. Well, he mentioned 2 sites. What were the 2 sites? Waxhaw is a big deal. And then Monroe at Skyline Drive, which is a challenge. But there's great opportunity. By the way, the first class that worked with him about 2 years ago, no, 18 months or whatever, and I'll have samples of the projects so you guys can all look at it. But we've got that project, and you can take a look at it because it was based on that farmer's market. So anybody that's got project number 1 and 2, you might want to look at it. All right, need, community growers. What's the need? Talk about it. Tell me what the need is.
Have like feel the open community.
Chatty time, yes. And you can be Chatty Cathy for a minute. Yes, what's it? You already got it figured out?
Yep.
Okay, what do you think?
To connect. Way to connect.
To connect?
Relationships.
What?
Build relationships.
Educate.
Yep. Educate, build relations, connect. What else? What's the prime reason? Well, first of all, let's identify the prime group. In a community garden, as of right now, who's the prime group? Some sort of an organization that's going to come together to help feed the needy.
But are they really growing it for the needy, or is that just an option for extra?
His inclination right now, and you might want to get this confirmed, his inclination right now is that's what they're going to do. The Lutheran Church in Monroe, I think he mentioned, is the only one he knows that's doing it, but others have expressed an interest. This is a pretty easy way for the church community to come together and do something for the local community, especially in these hard times.
There was one church that they were talking about in the meeting that they quit doing it. 'Cause
Oh, Lutheran? Was it the Lutheran Church? Or was there a problem?
I don't know, they just kind of,
Didn't come together to do it?
but they're
There's
also talking
another
about.
one that they're coming together. It's on Church Street in Monroe. It's going to be the new community garden. And they're starting to put things together
Good.
for that.
All right, so now we have an example that we can show groups. So that would come to the website, but here again, we got to figure out how we get the word out. So one of the biggest challenges with this project for each of your groups is how we're going to get the word out in traditional ways with little or no money, unless he's got some kind of budget. So when are you going to ask him about that? Did I ask you? Ask him if he's got any money for communications. I mean, I don't know whether there's any funding that, are these folks coming together and they're donating or something? I don't know. Some of these big growers around here, who knows? You know, Balcom family and some of the others that are around here. You know, where does Farmer Gene come out on this? I mean, maybe he's not so comfortable about this because then these are competitors, you know? All right, so I would say the driver, you're saying a bunch of different things that were correct, but I think the prime driver is that they're really looking to help, as I said. They're really looking to help. Now, he mentioned other groups under the community segment. I tend to think probably not, but great if it happens, and it'll happen because they get the information based on what we're doing, right? So in all these cases that we're talking about a flow through this process, and the purchase is they're buying this idea, and then they're implementing off the idea. Does that make sense? Right? So just so everybody's clear. Now, when we get together on Monday, I'll just take a minute and throw in the psychological stuff that has to be considered as we go through this process. Now, this is interesting because we do have a mix of business to business and consumers in this process. And you see what the different things, obviously, you're going to have to think about. Let's see. Joy, if you could send an email to Mr. Reeves also and ask him does he have any research that they've done with growers in Union County? Either the community groups or the farmers as to what they think about this. That would be really great to share. And you guys write up, outline, whatever, to share with everybody what you saw at the meeting.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
In the meeting, he was emphasizing that they want a logo, so it'd be, people understand what the logo means.
Yeah, I don't want us to do something like that.
Okay.
We don't, I mean, if you're art inclined and you want to spend some time to do that as part of your recommendation, absolutely.
I was just wondering, because he stopped the meeting and actually looked at the people in the meeting for the class, and he's like, we really would like you guys to.
He looked at you?
Like the people, they
Looked
were
at us
there.
attendance, and that might be.
Yeah, he stopped.
Oh, you were there too?
Yeah.
Oh, boy. It's up to you if you can do something. If you can come up with some recommendations, that would be wonderful. One class about 2 or 3 years ago came up with logo signage for the town of Marshville that they now use. So there's a real opportunity there. Do you have to go, Brittany?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry.
Everybody else can go now, too. I'm sorry, I keep talking, right?